Welcome to the Rob Call Bottom Up Show, sponsored by opednews.com, available on Pacifica and Progressive Radio Network and iTunes and Stitcher and SoundCloud, and at opednews.com/podcasts. My guest for this show is Shawanna Vaughn. I met Shawanna at the Peace and Justice Conference a few weeks ago, and she was a presenter there, it's basically, she's got a powerful story to tell. When she was, I think, 9 years old,
Absolutely.
her brother was killed. And since then, she's gotten to know the killer. So I'm going to hand you the mic pretty much and tell your story, Shawanna, and we'll talk about it. Also, if you want to find out about her, you can do a search for Silent Cry Inc. She's listed on Facebook and Instagram at Silent Cry, and her email is silentcry.s.v. Is there a second period there? No. Okay. silentcry.s.v at gmail.com. And tell us your story, Shawanna.
Hi, so nice to see you again. Thank you. So my story is, I am the sister of a victim of senseless violence. My brother was murdered December 24th, 1986. And that was my first encounter of losing someone to violence and senseless violence, because it didn't have to be. And I didn't realize then, on the journey, because my brother was the first person who mattered, who to die of violence, but he wasn't the last. And I just, it's been a process. It's been a long process. And over this journey, I've gotten to meet the person and know the person who did this. And, we all believe in a road to redemption, and we all believe in healing. And I'm really excited that I'm gonna get the opportunity this year to do something with this person together, and promote healing and promote pain, and to let people know that after trauma, after tragedy, there's triumph. I do an event, a flagship event called Healing Through Pain, in the honor of my brother. And this year, I have the pleasure of the person who committed such a heinous act, who is going to stand with me on a platform and give out baskets to other people who've lost someone to crime and violence.
When is that happening?
December the 15th in New York at Riverside Church, between the hours of 6 and 10 p.m. And I am so excited that two of my honorees were actually at the World Peace Panel. I'm actually honoring Matt Meyer and Sonia Sanchez at this event. So I'm so excited and delighted about that.
Keep telling the story.
And so, it was in my own journey that I began to realize what forgiveness was, because I went to prison and on my journey, and unfortunately I've had an encounter with the justice system, and I realized that there are a lot of things that get us there, and one isn't greater than the other. So it took for me to go on my own journey to realize maybe the person who murdered my brother had circumstances that were beyond him. And getting to know this person and speak to this person, I realized that all we need is love. All we need is understanding. We could really turn back the tide and be proactive instead of reactive if we just communicate, if we really bridge the gap and talk and if people listen. And I just feel like maybe he got caught up in a society, in a system where he felt like he had no one and no one was listening. And so when no one is listening, the streets is listening. The streets tells us lies that they will be your friend, they will be your ally, they'll be your mother, they'll be your father, they'll provide protection, they'll give you money. They will. It's a false narrative, and unfortunately, in poverty or impoverished communities, we believe the narrative, and it's unfortunate that it happens. But I feel like if you can look at me and look at him on a stage together, doing one work that is totally positive, then we change the narrative. We create a narrative. And we show people that after tragedy on both sides, because nobody won. I lost a brother and his family lost their son because he too went to prison. So nobody won.
Is he still in prison now?
No, he's not. He's actually coming to my.
We're losing you there. Hello?
He's actually coming with me.
We lost you for a second. I asked you if he's still in prison, and now
No,
you're back. So
no, he's at home and in California, and he's actually coming in December to New York to stand on stage with me and give out baskets. And words can't even express how I feel, because it's more than saying forgiveness. It's more than saying you redemption. We're going to show people forgiveness, and we're going to show redemption.
how so you've forgiven him?
Absolutely.
And what was that process like? What is his name? What's his first name?
Darnell.
Darnell. And you were 9 when your brother was murdered.
I was 9.
How old was Darnell?
I believe he was about 17 at that point.
17. Okay. And what happened to him after he killed your brother?
He did serve time in the correctional facility for about 7 years.
7 years?
Mm-hmm. And those are the laws that are on the books in California. And but if we're gonna say no more cages, Rob, and we're gonna say in mass incarceration, it's a hell of a statement that we're saying, because there's a lot of people there, and you might ask somebody that has a family member who's been murdered if the person should ever get out. And more often than not, the answer they're going to say is no, right?
Yes.
And because I have been to prison, I didn't murder anybody, but who said that robbery was any better? And what if someone said I never deserved a second chance? I never deserved a get it right moment.
How long were you in prison?
I was 17, 18, just like him, going into a justice system that's just not made for anybody.
And how much time did you serve?
5 years.
5 years in prison, and what was your crime?
Robbery.
Robbery?
Mm-hmm.
Armed robbery or?
Second-degree robbery.
And this was your first offense?
No, unfortunately. It's the offense that set me down the longest, that taught me the best lesson. And no, I actually did a year before and got out in 45 days and went back to do 5 years. And it was the lesson of a lifetime, because I learned that county jail and prison are not the same thing. And, going somewhere being so young, there's no rehabilitation in prison. And you have to will yourself to be a different human being. And you have to change yourself. It's about self. And that's when I came to the realization. That's when I said to myself, that's when I became curious. I said, maybe this person did not harm my brother because he just wanted to be an evil, malicious person. I said, I understand there might have been just life. And when people want to be accepted or you're looking for something, we all have gone down some paths looking and searching for acceptance or things or people or places. And the difference is some of us didn't kill anybody and some of us didn't go to prison, but we've all had something. And that's the journey it took for me to get to this place where I said, we can't have true forgiveness unless we truly forgive, because I want people to forgive me. I don't want people to still see me as W76337, because that's not who I am. I am someone's mother. I'm someone's family. I am a person who is out here fighting for the community, not just mine, but for everybody's. I am out here trying to make a difference and make amends for all my wrongs. And I believe that we all have that opportunity and we all have that ability. We just have to want it. And I've talked to him and I understand that he's not his yesterday either.
He's
And
not, I'm pardon, he's not what?
he's not his yesterday either.
Okay.
And evolution, when you grow and you're not the teenager who wanted to be accepted, when you're an adult man and now you have children and you see the after effects of your life and now you're trying to be a better person.
Darnell has children?
Yes.
Yes.
And family and he's someone's family as well, and people love him too. And so I believe, Rob, we, like I said in the panel, people go to church, you got pastors, and we talk about forgiveness and love, and we talk about all these grand things, but do we really, when the rubber hits the road, do your actions match your mouth? And in 2018, I can't do anything more to make my actions match my mouth than this. There's nothing else I can do. And I said, I'd rather show people than tell people, because in this event, it's a 50 basket tribute to parents and siblings who've lost somebody to crime and violence. That's what this event is about. And this year, I'm actually going to honor people from the NYPD who lost, lost someone as well, because we have a discord in our community with cops and community as well. And so this is the year that I want to try to get it right. And so I want to be all inclusive this year. And
What do you mean try to get it right?
the discord that we have, the heightened tensions we have right now with many minority communities all around the country and the police. We're very clear that that's a high tension problem. And I just feel like it's not enough being done to bridge that. My father was a detective for the Bakersfield Police Department, and my father was an exemplary man. And he wanted to go home to us just like everybody else wants to go home to their kids. And so I don't believe that we cannot fix what is broken. I believe that we can fix all the broken things if we want to. And it's not about waiting on the politician. It's not about waiting for the next civil rights movement and leaders. It's about each of us taking a role and doing what we can to make it better. If we're waiting on the next JFKs, if we're waiting on the next Martin Luther King and Malcolm X's, then we are being misguided, because we are the next. Each of us doing our part is the next. And so when I say that in this moment, I want to make my difference, I want to try to bridge my gap and my discord, it's by bringing police, because they're human, and I need people to see them in a human, universal light. Just they lose people too. And there were cops in Brooklyn murdered in their cop cars. They have kids. They have family. And so they hurt, and I want them to be remembered for their service, their bravery, because I had a father who put on that uniform too.
So we're going to talk more. I want to get into how you went through this process of forgiveness, because you didn't start forgiving him.
No.
So this is the Rob Call Bottom Up Show, available on Pacifica Radio. And I'm going to just pause for a moment. Okay, so I'm talking to Shawanna Vaughn, Silent Cry Inc., that you can find on Facebook and on Instagram. And her brother was murdered when she was 9 years old, and she's made peace with his murderer and has forgiven him and is actually doing some work with him. So you were 9 when it happened. What happened? How did it affect you then? And how did you feel about the murder, about Darnell, his murderer then? What was your brother's name?
My brother's name was Albert Phillips Jr. And most people either called him Moose or Sonny because he was really big. And
how old was he?
My brother was in his 30s.
In his 30s. Oh.
And I believe that, no, we don't all start out with forgiveness, because at 9, your brother and your father are your heroes. And they're the people that, that you look up to as men. And so when they're taken, there becomes a void. And I think for most people, when people are taken out of your life, there's a void. So I can't get that brother back. He's not coming back. And you go to cemeteries and you put out flowers and you clean headstones. And you can sit there and talk all day. But you wish you could see them and have a conversation, and it doesn't happen. And so, my mother was an avid cemetery goer. And my brother and my father lay side by side. And you understand the void as you keep going. And, that's why I say I really champion siblings of, because somehow you get lost and people don't really reverence your feelings or what did you feel. People don't really, that's not a thing.
What did you feel when you lost him? What did you feel?
Grief. I felt really sad that this person who would pick me up and play with me and love me, this person is not coming back. And at 9, I can't say I understood death, but I understood grief and hurt. And I understood that someone that was there is no longer there any further. And so it's something that you learn to cope with. And that's why, that's one of the reasons my organization is called Silent Cry, because we suffer from so many silent cries, Rob. And coming from, I can only speak from a point of being born as African American. And, we don't go to therapy, and our healing processes are just different. And I don't believe we heal. I believe we suppress and we just keep going. And it's a process. And I've had to learn as an adult that healing is okay. Therapy, talking is okay. And for me, giving back, doing silent cry is my therapy. It is my healing. It's okay.
Tell me more about Silent Cry. What do you mean by Silent Cry?
Silent cry was created out of my own silent tears, out of my own silent cries. Like I said, my brother was the first person to be murdered, but certainly not the last.
Who else?
And where I grew up, friends, classmates, people I met in the streets, people that, I hung out with, people in our community in general. And it didn't become easier, because it never becomes easy when you watch people that you care about die, and for just senseless violence, senseless reasons. And so, and then for myself to go to prison and come home, and you see the effects and the after effects of what you do to community, of what you do to your own family. And for me, taking ownership was birthed in silent cry. How do we address our silent cries? Because we have many isms and ills, but we can't attack them all. So I attack what affects me, which is death and prison. And I hope that I can do my part. If I can
How did your
convince.
how did your parents respond to your brother's death?
Well, my father had died in August of that year of cancer. So it was my mother. And my mother is, she's tough and she's resilient. And so, like I said, we don't go to therapy, we just keep moving. And it, it's unspoken. And, it's funny you said that, because that's a conversation that I really want to have. How do you feel? And those are not things that we sit around the dinner table or the holiday tables or just in general and talk about. Is how we feel.
What did she tell you when was he shot? How was he killed?
So my brother was stabbed
He was stabbed
32 times
32 times by one person.
by one person.
That's a horrific. It's not just a. I mean, no murder is just, but that's horrible. What
And
did your mother tell you? You were 9 years old. How did she tell you about it? How did she handle that with you?
well, she didn't say that part. You know, that's so blurry, but I mean, the cops came, and so we were clear that something happened. And she just said, he died. Your brother was hurt. He died. There was no, you're nine, so you can't process all the other details. I'm sure my other family was clear how, the what, when, where, why. But for me, I got the what, when, where, why as I got older, and from my own, just being in the street and hearing the stories, and myself being outside. And it's like, wow, and it makes you bitter, because you ask yourself, how can somebody hurt another human being, especially in such a manner? And I can't answer that, because I don't have the capacity, I believe, to hurt a human being in that manner. Um, but I do believe that there is a road to redemption, even from that, because there was a road of redemption for me from what I did
What a year. You lost your father and then your brother.
in the same year.
That's brutal.
Yeah.
And when you were 17 or 18, you were arrested and jailed. When did you this did your brother's murder contribute to your experience in engaging in criminal activities?
You know what? I believe my life contributed, environment. Um, I believe there was a lot of contributing factors for me. Um, but sometimes factors become excuses. And even though they're relevant at the time, I think sometimes we don't see another way out. And we think that that's the only way. And yeah, I believe that environment, social, economic, I believe that trauma um, definitely plays a part in how people play out their lives. And we all have different traumas and different ways that we act out the trauma. And so, that's one of the things that I, think is important, is identifying trauma.
So, how do you remember the trauma in your young life? You were 9 and you were on the verge of becoming a teenager, a young woman. How did his murder touch you and traumatize you?
Death is traumatizing, I believe, for everybody, even if it's not malicious um, or senseless. I still believe that it's traumatizing because I'm 40 and my father dying, I'm still as traumatized as if it was my brother being murdered, um, because it was somebody that I love. And so I believe that my brother murder and senseless death, I believe that, it, that's another type. And when you get it, when you get older and you realize what it was, you're like, whoa, wow, that's whoa. Because it's not like my father dying from cancer. That's different. And somebody taking somebody from you, you took something. And I just don't ever think it's a reason for anybody to take a human being from anybody. Because I ask myself, what could have been done differently? And I wish I had the answers, but I don't. If my brother would have came out of a building later or earlier, but it still would have been somebody's family. And so I, I just hope that Silent Cry can do something that wakes somebody up before we get there, before we get to the trauma. If it can change one person, then I feel like I've honored my brother, I've honored my father, and I've done my job as a person. If one less person can go to jail, if one less person can die, or if one person can heal, then Silent Cry has done everything that I created it for. Because I believe that healing after trauma is just as important as trying to prevent.
I want to get a better picture though of how you were traumatized though, and I know it's hard to talk about, and you've already talked about how you tough it out, and the culture is to just be tough. But how did it affect you as a young girl and as a teenager?
I believe I was sad and lost,
Were you angry?
angry, absolutely, and trying to you try to create an identity after your brother's gone, after your father is gone, and that's hard. And being a child, growing up, and trying to find your own way, just at that age, is awkward in and of itself. But then you lose the most valuable men in your life, because I lost my brother and my father in the same year, and then it was a clan of women, and I definitely believe that was a blow. That was a serious mental blow, emotional. Um,
How did that blow manifest in your life, in the way you related to other people, in you being, I mean, you've told us that you ended up doing a number of things that got you in trouble. When did that start?
for me, that started really early. Um, Probably 13, 14, and still trying to find yourself, still trying to get an identity, still trying to find a place to fit. And like I said, when you go outside, um, there are people who will love you, and
You're breaking up. I can't hear you.
there are people who will love you and call themselves family. And the street looks really alluring, and it looks good, and people will make you feel accepted, and you will buy the lie. And
You will buy what?
buy the lie that
Buy the lie.
buy the lie that when you're looking for something and you have a void to fill, and I believe that was me. I was looking for something, Rob, not really sure what, and I believe it was the void of the men that were gone. And you try many things trying to fill that void. And so for me, the things that filled the void were just outside being managed, just doing all the wrong things. And meeting the wrong people, taking the wrong journeys, but it filled the void.
Was this partly maybe driven by the anger and the
Probably
sadness that you felt?
the missing, the longing, the anger, all of it for something. And for me, my brother was a hero and my father was my best friend. And how do you replace superheroes? That's hard. And you know, it took, like I said, it took for me to go to prison to really deal with my grief, my trauma, because I had time to sit and deal with me. And, sometimes prison is a saving grace, um, because it created I had time to heal and I had time to figure out just who I was and where I was going, because I knew where I was and how I got there was not who I wanted to be. And realizing that the criminal justice system and what it was and how it was structured when I got there, Rob, I realized, I said, maybe the person who did these things to my brother got caught up in a bad situation just like me. And I had to reflect on that and I had to deal with myself. And I said, if there's hope for me, if there's redemption for me, there has to be for him as well. And at 40, I am very clear through my journey that there is a road to redemption, Rob, not just for me, but for everybody who takes the road. And so I want people to take away from this interview, from me, from Silent Cry, and definitely for my event, Healing Through Pain, that forgiveness will heal you. Forgiveness will heal you.
How do people find out about Healing Through Pain, the event?
You can go on Facebook. I am actually putting it out on Eventbrite this week. You can email me at silent, SILENTCRY, period, S as in Sam, V as in Victor, at gmail.com. You can find me on Facebook at Shawanna Vaughn or at Silent Cry. Email me, message me, Instagram me, and I will be more than happy. I am actually taking sponsorships and donations. I did a GoFundMe. It is Silent Cry Healing Through Pain. It's up as well on GoFundMe. And, I really want people to participate and definitely sponsor this event. I've been doing it. This is the 6th year, and I feel like I've made an impact. And this year, like I said, my 2 honorees are absolutely phenomenal people who've done phenomenal, phenomenal work, Rob. I think you can vouch for Matt Meyer and Sonia Sanchez and all the work that they've done. And those are 2 people that I've had the wonderful pleasure to meet. And I think that they are phenomenal in what they do. And just to be able to have heard them and sat with them makes me want to do more and work harder, because they've both worked tirelessly for us for change.
Okay. So what I'd like you to talk about now is how you how you found uh, your brother's killer. How you discovered who Darnell was, and how you got in touch with him,
Well, where we are, where
why
we're
he killed your brother.
from,
Go ahead.
well, where we're from is small. Bakersfield, California is not a big place, and it's a place like Cheers. You want to be where everybody knows your name, and population is not that big, and so it's one side of town to the other. And as you grow up, you hear names and you know the stories, and so I was actually went to high school with his family, and I knew the last name, and so I knew who they were, and I was friends with them. They did nothing to my, they didn't do anything to me, and they're actually a wonderful group of people, and just like my family. And so, I reached out to people, different people. Do you know him? Have you seen him? Have you heard from him? And I think when I first reached out, I think he might have been in jail or somewhere. And
How
then
old were you when you reached out? How much? How long after the murder was it when you reached out to him?
for me, it was a long time because I was still a child, and I think I was in high school.
You were
I
in high
was in
school.
high school when I first tried to reach out, and I really didn't get anywhere at that point, and it took going to prison, coming home, reaching out, and I think I had at that point I think I had got to see him, and I really didn't say who I was, but I got to see who they were, who he was, and now since I've been in New York and developed silent crime, that's really made me want to deal with him and see where he was in his life. And I've got that opportunity, and I've got to speak with him, and see that he's evolved as a human being as well.
Have you
And
met face to face?
no, I get to actually do face to face December the 15th.
December
And
15th.
yes, at Healing Through Pain. And so um I'm I am whew, I I'm glad. I'm grateful that time allowed me and time allowed him. That he's still here and I'm still here and we can do this. Because I don't know another way, Rob, to honor my brother better than this. I don't know another way to acknowledge how much I love him and acknowledge who my father was as a detective and a human being and who my brother was as a brother than to stand on a platform and do this. And hopefully it will help all the families and all the participants and recipients at this event because it's not telling my story, it's they get to see it for themselves. And I hope, Rob, that can change a multitude, that they can start to heal. It's not for everybody, but it is something that I've seen people do, and I know that it worked. And I just hope that it'll shift um, hearts in the right direction. That is my hope.
So, what you haven't told us is why Darnell killed your brother.
Though the why is I'm not sure, but I know that I don't think it was intended for my brother. It was just I think whoever came out of this place at midnight. So I don't believe it was just I don't believe he was just picked out on purpose. And so um The why is something that, I'll get a chance to ask in person. I've heard the stories, but not from the person themselves.
What are the
And
stories?
the stories is gang initiation, and he was the person who came out of his job.
So let me get this straight. Darnell wanted to join a gang, and in order to join the gang, he had to kill somebody.
That's what initiation is sometimes.
And your brother just happened to be in the
The
spot
person
when he
who
was
came out of his
playing.
job at midnight.
What was the gang?
Um, well, California, there's a lot, but the Crip.
Okay.
So um, but I'm grateful that I'll get the opportunity to sit down and have a conversation, and hopefully I can come back and we can talk about the conversation,
Yeah, I'd like to hear about it.
and
What are you going to say to him?
hmm, that I understand, and it's took a lot to understand. It's taken my own woven journey to understand, but we can't walk this walk and say we're activists and we are transformers, and we don't transform our own families and our own lives and the hurt that's in it. And so how can I birth silent cry like I've birthed my children and have an expectation if I won't let go of what I harbor? It can't work. And so, you know, that's my first, I understand. And hopefully to build something that is long lasting and constructive for both of us, that we can both walk away and help people heal. That is my hope, Rob. That is absolutely my my hope.
So
That
what I'm hearing is that in order to forgive yourself, you feel you need to forgive him. In
absolutely,
order to really heal your own issues of because of you've done some bad stuff,
absolutely,
you feel that by forgiving him, it's good for you.
absolutely, it is.
Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Um, sure. I I haven't always been the greatest human being. Haven't always been the greatest family member or person.
Can you
And
talk about the details of that?
for sure, I I robbed a bank. I've robbed some other things. I've did a lot of wrong things, taken a lot of wrong paths. And so if it's funny, one of my mother's family members, I wrote a letter to a judge and it said nature versus nurture. And as I am now 40, I find that to be profound, that nature versus nurture. I'm inheritedly a bad human being. And that's inheritedly wrong. And so, um, and that's another story, but I'm adopted, and my mother had me in prison. And
I'm
so
sorry, I couldn't hear your mother. What?
I said, that's another story in and of itself. I said, I'm adopted, and my mother had me in prison. And so and when someone wrote the letter and they put nature versus nurture, that I said, whoa, no. And the only person who can change that narrative is me. And so if there's a road back from redemption for me, Rob, isn't there not a road back to redemption for others? Because you've met me. But if you would have met me prior, you might not have liked me. And I still thought I was okay, but I wasn't. And at this juncture, I'm a work in progress. Not who I want to be, but far cry from where I was. And I believe if I wake up every day and try to be better, then I'm walking my road to redemption. And I'm becoming a better person than I am, defying nature versus nurture. And so if that luxury is afforded to me, then that luxury has to be afforded to Darnell. That luxury has to be afforded to a good numerous amount of people. And you're absolutely right. I believe that me forgiving him is people forgiving me.
Have you gone to the people who you robbed?
Um, no, I have not got that opportunity. Um, but if given that opportunity, I would.
Sounds like
Again,
something that's not an opportunity to be given to you, but
it,
for you to
it's
take.
no, it's not, and that'll be one of my silent cries, and this is my repentance, if that makes sense. Um, and so I take solace in knowing that maybe I can't say sorry to you, but my today is my I'm sorry. And Silent Cry is my platform of I'm sorry and making amends and building bridges and making it better. And Healing Through Pain, my flagship event, is my road to redemption. And I hope that, when Darnell gets here and he sees it and he's a part of it, that he understands why it's my road to redemption. And hopefully it becomes his road to redemption as well. That is my hope.
So you've been in touch with Darnell. How long ago did you first make contact with him?
Mm, maybe about 3 years ago, and it's hard to nail him down sometimes. But now, I've even spoken to him a couple of weeks ago, and he's excited to come, and I'm excited for him to come because the possibilities that can come out of this
What are the
are
possibilities?
that we could possibly help 50 people in one room in one night.
How would you
Because
help them?
because my 50 basket tribute is 25 siblings who've lost somebody and 25 parents who've lost somebody. So if 50 impacted people can watch this, who can watch us too, then I feel like if it can change something for them, if it can spark anything in them, then we've done something amazing and we've done it together.
So what would be the ideal outcome of this?
The ideal outcome for me is that he would go home and do the same thing where he is.
Do what?
Um,
Do what?
do a healing through pain or do something that is his road to redemption, whatever that is for him. It might not be the same thing, but that he walks away with knowing that he can make a difference and
Have
it
you
matters.
talked to him about this at all and what your hopes are
Um,
for this?
I actually got a chance to speak to him, a couple of weeks ago, and he's on a road of becoming and being a better person and doing better.
What's he
And
doing now? What's his life like?
he's owned businesses since then. He's a single parent, raising kids, um, living life, and I think that that's amazing. And we are not our yesterday. I'm no longer W76337, and he's no longer a person who was malicious and seeking the lie. And so I believe that we all have a chance to come out of our yesterdays. We all have a chance to be better than our circumstances. And I want people to realize that there is triumph after tragedy. That there is healing after pain.
Is your mother still with us?
My mother is still alive. Yes, she is.
And what does she think about your doing this?
My mother thinks my journey is interesting in and of itself. Um, but I hope that she sees that my journey is necessary.
Does she forgive Darnell?
We'd have to ask her, Rob. And like I said, those unspoken. On our next interview, I'll tell you about that conversation.
Does she know that you're having him come to this event, the Healing Through Pain event?
Yes.
Yeah, and what does she think?
She hasn't really said.
Oh, really?
And so, silence does speak volumes, but she hasn't said. And even for her, I hope that even her watching, because she's my mother's older and she can't come, but it is being videoed. And I hope even for her, when she gets to see it, that it sparks something for her, whatever that is for her. I know that, for her, she's proud of my turnaround. So you have to be proud of other people's turnarounds as well.
And she hasn't said she doesn't like it. She said
No.
that she's unhappy with it. So that's something.
Exactly.
So we need to do another show ID here. This is the Rob Call Bottom Up Show, sponsored by opednews.com, available on Pacifica Radio Network and Progressive Radio Network and iTunes and Stitcher and SoundCloud and at opednews.com/podcasts. And my guest for this show is Shawanna Vaughn, and she is the founder of Silent Cry, and she's the organizer of Healing Through Pain, which is an event that brings together 25 families, parents, and children of murder victims. That's going to be December 15th in New York at the Riverside Church. And she's got a fundraiser for that. That is on, where's the fundraiser?
On GoFundMe.
On
and
GoFundMe.
It's Healing Through Pain, Silent Cry is the organization.
Okay. So you've got kids. How old are your kids?
My kids are 17 and 6.
17 and 6. What do they know about this, and what's their, I mean, the 6-year-old, not much, I'm sure, but what about the
17-year-old? Well, my son is, oh my God, he's amazing. He makes jokes. He says, you're the revolution. You're the new Angela Davis. And we just laugh. And
so that means he's proud of you.
Yeah. And for that, I'm grateful, because for anybody to reverence anybody to her is marvelous. And, he says, I don't know why you do it, but I'm glad you do. And so
Angela Davis was a revolutionary fighting the system. Are you fighting the system?
You know what? Not in that manner. I think the system is broken and definitely needs change. I myself right now am working on policy and legislation, because I believe the only way to change something is to be in it. And for me right now, like I said, going to the World Peace Panel, Rob, for me was life changing and life altering. And meeting you was even one of the highlights of being there. And I'm so grateful, because my takeaway from that was we can scream and we can march and we talked about, the guy on the panel was speaking about the broken windows have more value than the people. And I walked away from that and it stuck, because when we talk about riots and we talk about the things that happen in African American communities and we talk about the justice system and we talk about all these things, well, marching is no longer effective. And burning down and looting your own neighborhoods has never been effective.
So what kind of legislation are you looking for?
I am in the process of writing something called W76337, which is my prison number. And I'm trying to put together legislation for people on pretrial to have the right to vote absentee ballot because they're not yet proven guilty and they're not voting. And judges are being elected and they're not voting. That's a problem for me. I too sat on pretrial. And I believe that we need to address this. And I'm actually, in the process of writing it right now. And I'm hoping, Rob, that I can get senators and politicians to get behind it. That is my hope because that is a voter block that is being disenfranchised because they're not even being counted at all. And if you're on pre-trial, you're not guilty yet.
What does that mean? I'm not that familiar. So somebody is on pretrial, they're in jail.
They're in jail.
They
They're
didn't
sitting
get bail, or they couldn't make bail.
Some couldn't afford bail, and some weren't afforded the opportunity to get bail. But in this country that we live in, it says we are innocent until proven guilty. Is that not the law?
Sure.
And if you're on pretrial and you're not sentenced yet, Rob, there are people who sit on pretrial 3 to 5 years.
How many people are are in that situation?
Oh my God. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me now, but it's at least 100,000 people or more.
Nationwide or in New York?
No, nationwide.
Nationwide.
And they're just sitting there waiting on their day in court. And the court system, as we know, is backed up and blogged up and, and it's just laws to circumvent people getting to court speedy trial. So they're sitting there and they're waiting. But while they're sitting there and they're not proven innocent or guilty, life is happening and politics is happening.
Sure is.
And their vote still matters. And their vote is not decided.
I mean, there are so many ways that the system is broken in terms of disenfranchisement of people, particularly people of color and minorities. But I never thought of this one, and it makes perfect sense. Good on you for doing it. So we've got about 4 or 5 minutes left. What would you say to other people who are family members who had family members who were murdered? What would you say to them?
I would say to them, if the person who murdered your loved one is still alive, or if they are in jail, I would say to write them a letter. Tell them exactly how you feel. But in that letter, leave room for healing. And hear what they have to say to you. Because we can't keep saying, we can't keep doing regular things and expect different results. I hear people go to church and we talk about faith and we talk about God and we talk about love and we talk about all these things. But when the rubber hits the road, does your mouth match your actions? Do you really forgive? Do you really heal? And do you really love? That is it. And so I really, please go look at Silent Cry on Instagram. Please look me up on Facebook. Please email me at silentcry.sv@gmail.com. Please donate, become a sponsor for this event. And please look out for my legislation. It is coming. W76337 is on its way, and it needs support. So, I'm coming back to Rob for petitions and signatures because we have to give the voiceless a voice.
So have you told your message about forgiveness and love you've done this this is going to be your 6th year doing the Healing Through Pain Silent Cry event.
Yes.
And in the past, you've basically had other family members who have lost people to murder.
Yeah. Yes.
How do they respond to your message?
You know what? I think they respond well. I still speak to people that I've given baskets to, and they say thank you. And so I'm grateful. I'm eternally grateful that, as people, a basket doesn't sound like much, But it's not even about that. It's about a night where you're with people who have suffered your fight. And when sometimes you say nobody understands me, well, then that night there's going to be 50 people who understand you, and a whole room of people. There was 300 people there last year that are in your fight with you. And I want them to leave with resources and phone numbers and people to call to know that you are not alone, and there is a road to redemption and there's a road to healing, and you're going to all be in here together, and we can all take time to get to know each other and get to heal together.
That's all right. Beautiful. Well, thanks so much for being here. My guest for this show has been Shawanna Vaughn. She's the founder of Silent Cry. Her brother was murdered when she was 9 years old, and now she's made peace with his murderer, who randomly picked out her brother to kill as part of a gang initiation. She's got an event coming up, Healing Through Pain, Silent Cry, with a GoFundMe campaign to help fund it. Thanks so much for being on the show, Shawanna.
Thank you.